the United States has always been a torchbearer for minority rights in different countries, but they seldom speak about what is happening in our neighborhood. In that sense, India also, it's a rising power, and with the entire CA and RC debate coming into picture, how can India actually ensure that Hindu, Sikh, Christian, and Buddhist minorities are not targeted in our neighborhood?
See, I'd like to say that my problem with the CAA, number one, it is based on religion, which is a problem. It has to be based on the universality of man. And secondly, it incentivizes fanatics to drive Hindus out of Pakistan, of Afghanistan, and Bangladesh by essentially ensuring safe haven to them. Now, giving them safe haven is important. It is justice. There's no question about it. But the first priority has got to be protecting them where they are, not basically making them flee without anything, any possession, and flee as, refugees into India. You saw that happen in the Punjab, for example. People lost their properties. They lost everything. They lost their families. And they crossed across. It's another matter that the Punjabis were very resilient. And in a matter of years, they built themselves up again from scratch, despite the horrible hardship they endured because of the genocide in what is now Pakistan. But frankly, this has provided an incentive because you're saying we have an open door, which I think is good that we have an open door, but you're providing an incentive for them to multiply their activities, to drive these minorities out, to drive the Hindu and if I may say so, the Hindu, the Buddhist minority, the Christians, especially the Hindu, out. Because for them, the Hindu is what is toxic. They are unhappy that you have a country where you've got 1 billion Hindus, a country that's doing well, a country that's got a strong leadership under Prime Minister Modi. They're very unhappy about that. So the number one target for them is the Hindu community. Other communities are also targets, but the Hindus are first. And so this, unfortunately, is incentivizing them and saying, now look, now that this door is wide open, let's push these people through that door. We have to push these fanatics out. We have to deal with the governments there, talk frankly to them, with the help of Americans and others, assist them to push these fanatics out. That is the first priority. The final thing, if you fail, the default option is to welcome them into India, which I'm totally in favor of. But that's the default option. That is frankly, after admitting defeat in making them safe in their own countries. I'm not ready to admit defeat in that. I'm not ready to admit that the Hindus of Bangladesh, have been reduced already from 26% to 8%. That it's inevitable that they be reduced to 0.8% and then to 0. No, I think frankly, it's important to create a situation by which they come back to 10 and 15%. So that reverse migration takes place of Hindus to Bangladesh. Reverse migration takes place within India of Pandits to the Kashmir Valley and to locations from which they were driven out. Reverse migration has to take place, and for that, and in the case of Pakistan, everybody says, I've heard this mantra so many times, a stable Pakistan is in everybody's interest. I'm sorry. A stable Pakistan run by civilians and a moderate establishment is in everybody's interest. Right. Pakistan run by an extremist military is not in anyone's interest. Certainly not India's. So I'd only like to point out that it's important that we be forthright in pointing to Balochistan, pointing to the injustices there, pointing to Sindh, pointing to the Pashtuns, pointing to injustices done there, to the Shia, pointing to all that, if I may say so, and telling these people, you have India, we are giving you moral and diplomatic support. And I think it's important for India to make its voice clear and to make its voice loud, if I may say so. So the global community also will no longer have the excuse that they're using now. Oh, well, India is not really talking about it. Why should we? Well, we should talk more about Balochistan. And I'm glad Prime Minister Modi is the first leader who has started talking about these things. The first leader, the first Prime Minister of India. I think that needs to be taken much further, if I may say so. But there are individuals in the government who do not share that same, sense of commitment, if I may say so, to human rights and freedoms, especially when you're seeing them completely trampled upon in Pakistan. So you have to be forthright in calling out Pakistan for what it is. You have to be forthright about it. And I think we need to do a job, and we need to bring out a coalition, an international coalition, to ensure that justice gets done. Because if that is done, I can tell you, and the army is sent back to the barracks, either they'll be sent back to the barracks or there will be unraveling of the state of Pakistan into 3 or 4 entities.
Right.
Most likely, the second will happen because the military will never want to surrender power. There'll be a situation in which this becomes inevitable. But for that, I can tell you, all we need to do, all I'm asking that we do, is make our voice loud and clear to the global community about what is happening in these places in Pakistan. Document what is happening, disseminate what is happening, and that India is opposed. Like the Prime Minister today was outspoken about a free and open Indo-Pacific. He's been talking free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. He's been talking about that for years now, and he's open about it. He's also been open about Balochistan, if I may say so. I think that kind of openness has to continue, has to expand, so that they know, all these oppressed people in Pakistan know, they have a friend in India. And believe me, in America, public opinion will ensure that finally they'll have a friend in America as well. Public opinion hit back very badly at Joe Biden, if I may say so, for the fiasco of Afghanistan. He was hit very hard by public opinion and frankly ridiculed. And even in the military, they lost respect for their commander-in-chief. So he has understood that. And I think India, the voice of India under Prime Minister Modi, should be loud and clear across the global community in the protection of human rights and freedoms across the world. As I said, I repeat, I don't believe that diet, dress, and lifestyle is a matter for the law and the police. I am, for example, very clear that if you lynch an individual for eating a particular kind of meat, you are a terrorist and should be dealt with as a terrorist. There can be no exceptions. Right. Hate is wrong. Hate is evil, no matter which religion you belong to. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or whatever, hate is evil. It is un-Indic. But I'd like to point out that so that example has to be made in India, and a very strong action has to be taken against the very few elements. But today, what is happening, those few elements are being magnified, and they're being magnified thousands of times, so that public in so many countries believe, frankly, that that India is becoming a country of fanatics in which minorities are unsafe. And in fact, a genocide is taking place. I'll give you a recent example of a young man who was arrested for narcotics. Now, I'd like to say very openly, I favor a decriminalization of soft drugs, a concentration on hard drugs and decriminalization of soft drugs to get rid of these narcotic syndicates. I would like to say that very clearly. So in my view, this young man should not have been sent to jail. Under Indian law, he has to be sent to jail. NCB had to send him to jail. That's fine. But if I may say so, what is happening now? It's been presented across the Gulf countries that Shah Rukh Khan and is being targeted through his son because he's a Muslim. Now, there are multiple people who have been raided by the NCB. I think very, very few of them are Muslim. Most of them, the overwhelming majority, are Hindus. But the narrative that I'm hearing from my friends in the Middle East is that, oh my God, you're targeting Shah Rukh's son because he's a Muslim. Right. So that's a reaction that is extremely, extremely unfortunate and which is not very helpful to India. But that is what's happening. So as a consequence, what's happening, vacuums are being created that are being filled by toxic anti-India, anti-Modi narratives and elements. And we need to be much more active. And one way the Prime Minister can be active is to be a champion of human rights across South Asia and across the world. I think that's very important. And a good start will be to champion human rights in Pakistan. Pakistan claims to be very concerned about human rights in India. We need to be even more concerned about human rights in Pakistan.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.